Denmark is easy to underestimate on a map. It is a small Nordic country tucked between the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, sitting just north of Germany and southwest of Sweden. But its size hides a much larger story. Denmark is not only a European state made up of a peninsula and hundreds of islands, it is also the central part of the wider Kingdom of Denmark, which includes the autonomous territories of Greenland and the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic. That makes Denmark both compact and far-reaching, a country whose mainland is low, flat, and densely connected, but whose political realm stretches across seas, climates, and cultures. To understand Denmark, you have to see it as a maritime country first, shaped by islands, trade routes, borders, and the constant pull of the sea. Metropolitan Denmark, sometimes called Denmark proper, is built from the northern part of the Jutland Peninsula and an archipelago of islands. The country has hundreds of islands, though only a fraction are inhabited. Zealand, known in Danish as Sjælland, is the largest and most populated island in metropolitan Denmark, and it is where the capital, Copenhagen, is located. Copenhagen itself spreads across Zealand, Amager, and the historic island of Slotsholmen, giving the city a geography that reflects Denmark as a whole: water, bridges, ports, and compact urban life. The country's landscape is mostly flat and arable, with sandy coasts, gentle elevations, and a temperate climate. There are no towering mountains defining Denmark's identity. Instead, its geography is one of accessibility, agriculture, seafaring, and close human settlement. Denmark's location has always mattered. It sits at a strategic gateway between the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, near the maritime routes connecting Scandinavia, continental Europe, and the wider Atlantic world. Sweden lies to the east and northeast, Norway to the north across the water, and Germany forms Denmark's only land border to the south. This position made Denmark a natural trading power, but also placed it in the middle of repeated struggles for influence in northern Europe. Control over sea lanes, islands, and narrow passages could mean economic strength and political leverage. Denmark's geography encouraged outward movement, ships, commerce, military campaigns, and later diplomacy. Its small land area did not prevent it from becoming a major actor in the Baltic region because its coastlines and waters gave it reach. The unified Kingdom of Denmark emerged in the 8th century as a maritime power during a period when control of the Baltic Sea was fiercely contested. Early Denmark developed in a world of ships, coastal settlements, and regional rivalries. The kingdom's identity grew from its ability to project power across water and connect scattered communities under one crown. Over time, Denmark became deeply tied to the histories of Norway and Sweden, sometimes as an ally and sometimes as a rival. Its medieval power was not simply based on farmland or population, but on its ability to command routes, collect influence, and participate in the politics of the north. The Danish state that emerged from this era was shaped by both unity and competition, a kingdom seeking to hold together a region defined by movement and water. One of the most important moments in Scandinavian history came in 1397 with the formation of the Kalmar Union, which joined Denmark, Norway, and Sweden under a single monarch. For Denmark, the union represented a high point of regional influence. It created a broad northern political structure stretching across Scandinavia and the North Atlantic. But unions built from powerful kingdoms are rarely simple. Sweden eventually broke away in 1523, ending the three-crown arrangement and shifting the balance of power. What remained was the Kingdom of Denmark-Norway, a state that continued to matter across the seas, but now faced a rising Swedish rival. The end of the Kalmar Union did not end Denmark's importance. Instead, it began a new period of rivalry, war, and territorial adjustment that would reshape the Danish realm for centuries. In the 17th century, Denmark-Norway fought a series of wars that weakened its position against Sweden. These conflicts led to territorial losses and forced Denmark to confront the limits of its power. The struggle was not just about prestige. It involved control of regions, access to coasts, and the balance between Scandinavian states. Sweden's rise meant Denmark could no longer assume dominance in the north. Over time, this loss of territory and influence helped push Denmark toward a more inward-looking national development. The kingdom remained important, but its ambitions had to adjust. The story of Denmark is therefore not only a story of expansion. It is also a story of contraction, of a once larger realm adapting to a smaller core, and slowly building a stronger sense of social and political cohesion within that diminished space. The 19th century was a turning point for Denmark's modern identity. Nationalist movements surged across Europe, and Denmark was drawn into conflicts over Schleswig and Holstein, territories at the border between Danish and German worlds. In the First Schleswig War beginning in 1848, Danish forces resisted nationalist and separatist pressures. But the conflict also unfolded during a moment of deep political change at home. On June 5, 1849, Denmark adopted a constitution, ending absolute monarchy and beginning a constitutional order. That date remains central in Danish political memory because it marked a shift from royal absolutism to a more modern state. Denmark was still a monarchy, but power was now bound by constitutional rules. The country's future would be shaped not only by kings and wars, but by institutions, civic identity, and political negotiation. Denmark's defeat in the Second Schleswig War was one of the most painful moments in its national history. The loss of Schleswig-Holstein reduced the kingdom and forced a major reconsideration of what Denmark was. After this defeat, Danish politics and culture increasingly emphasized social cohesion, internal development, and the idea of a unified people within a smaller state. The vast moors of Jutland were cleared and developed for agriculture, symbolizing a practical turn inward. If Denmark could not be a great territorial power, it could build strength at home. Religious and cultural movements also shaped society, including currents associated with intermission and Grundtvigian thought. Despite their differences, these movements contributed to education, community life, and national self-understanding. In 1920, North Schleswig returned to Denmark, partly restoring a historic wound, but the country's modern path had already been set. Denmark began industrializing in the mid-19th century, but its modernization had a distinctly agricultural character. Rather than becoming known first for heavy industry, Denmark became a major agricultural exporter, especially through cooperative organization and efficient production. Farmers, local communities, and institutions helped create a society where economic modernization was tied to social participation. In the early 20th century, Denmark introduced labor market and social reforms that laid the foundation for the welfare state model it is known for today. The Danish approach became associated with a mixed economy, market activity combined with strong public services, worker protections, and social security. This model did not appear overnight. It grew from a long history of cooperation, compromise, and the belief that a small country could become resilient by reducing extreme inequality and building trust between citizens and institutions. Denmark tried to remain neutral during both world wars, but neutrality did not protect it in the Second World War. In April 1940, Germany invaded quickly, and Denmark was occupied. The occupation created a difficult and morally complex period in Danish history. At first, Danish authorities operated under heavy constraints, but over time resistance grew. By 1943, a more active resistance movement had emerged, reflecting wider rejection of the occupation. Meanwhile, Iceland, which had been connected to the Danish crown, declared independence in 1944. Denmark was liberated in May 1945 after Germany's defeat. The war changed the country's outlook. It reinforced the limits of neutrality and helped shape Denmark's post-war alignment with Western institutions. After occupation, security could no longer be treated as something guaranteed by distance or small state caution. After the war, Denmark became deeply embedded in international cooperation. It was a founding member of NATO, reflecting a clear commitment to collective defense. It also became part of institutions such as the United Nations, the Nordic Council, the OECD, the OSCE, and the Council of Europe. In 1973, Denmark joined what is now the European Union. While negotiating certain opt-outs, including retaining its own currency, the krone. Greenland joined with Denmark at the time but later left the European community, while the Faroe Islands did not join. This shows an important feature of the Danish realm: it is politically connected but not uniform. Denmark is integrated into Europe, the Nordic region, and the Atlantic Alliance, yet it also manages relationships with territories whose interests, geographies, and identities differ sharply from metropolitan Denmark. The Kingdom of Denmark today includes Denmark proper, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. Denmark exercises the central constitutional role in the realm, but the Faroe Islands and Greenland have substantial autonomy. Home rule was established in the Faroe Islands in 1948, while Greenland achieved home rule in 1979 and expanded self-government in 2009. These arrangements reflect the challenge of governing a realm spread across very different places: dense European Denmark, the North Atlantic Faroes, and vast Arctic Greenland. Internal affairs are largely handled locally in the autonomous territories, while broader constitutional and foreign policy structures remain tied to the kingdom. This makes Denmark unusual. It is a small European country, but also the core of a realm with Arctic and Atlantic dimensions, giving it strategic importance beyond its mainland size. Modern Denmark is known for high living standards, a high-income economy, robust welfare policies, and a broadly progressive social culture. Danish society is often described as egalitarian and socially liberal, and Denmark was the first country to legally recognize same-sex partnerships. Its political culture places strong emphasis on trust, public services, social balance, and compromise. Copenhagen has become a symbol of Danish urban life, bike-friendly, design-conscious, and connected to both Nordic tradition and global modernity. But Denmark's success is not just about lifestyle branding. It is the result of centuries of adaptation, from maritime kingdom to constitutional state, from territorial losses to social cohesion, from agricultural modernization to welfare democracy. Denmark's story shows how a small country can turn geography, institutions, and shared identity into lasting influence. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.